You know, the one thing about finishing is that it's kind of like cooking. You can get a recipe, and as long as you follow the right steps in the right order, you can get pretty much the same result every time. Now it'll change a little bit depending on what your material is, but take this Limbert bookcase for example. This is a piece of Craftsman or mission style furniture, and we're gonna follow the same finishing procedure that Willie Sandry used in the original Popular Woodworking article. This is going to be a 4-step process that's going to kind of give us that traditional mission style look, and it's going to antique it a little bit. So what are our steps going to be? Well, the first is going to be to sand it. And I've pretty much sanded everything at this point. And I'm not going crazy here because we are going to put color onto this. We want the wood to be able to soak that in. So I sanded this up to 150 grit. You could go 180, but I wouldn't go any higher than that, or else you're gonna burnish the surface and just make it hard for that color to penetrate. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna apply color. And we're gonna do that by adding a dye. And the dye that we're gonna use is gonna be the Trans Tint Dark Mission Brown. Now this dye is concentrated, so we have to mix it with something. This is a water-soluble dye. You could use denatured alcohol. We're actually going to use a mixture of denatured alcohol and lacquer thinner. What this is going to do is it's going to carry that color into the wood, but it's not going to raise the grain. If you mix this with water and apply it to your surface, those fibers are going to swell up and you're going to have to come back and sand it down. We don't want to do that. We don't want to take any of that color off. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to mix up some of this dye. And we're going to use a 50-50 mixture of lacquer thinner and denatured alcohol. We're going to go approximate on the 50-50. Doesn't have to be super exact. And now we're going to mix in this dye. And it is 1.5 ounces per quart. This is a pint, which is half of that volume. So we are going to do about 3/4 of an ounce, which happens to be about all I have left of this. And now we're going to stir that up. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to apply this dye using a staining sponge. Now with dye, anything carried in a binder like this, you don't want to go over it again. You can end up with streak marks. So I'm going to try to make one pass along each surface, getting good coverage, and then we're going to let that dry. We want the denatured alcohol and lacquer thinner to flash off. Once that's done, we're going to come back and we're going to seal it down with some spray shellac. All right, now I've let the dye dry long enough to go out and get a haircut, but really what we want to happen is for all the solvents to flash off. And it should be pretty dry to the touch when you touch it, and nothing should come off on your fingers, and that's perfect. So now we want to seal this down because we're gonna apply a gel stain over top. And to seal it, we're gonna use shellac. Shellac's kind of known as the universal sealer. But the key here is it needs sprayed on. Because shellac's solvent is denatured alcohol, if we wipe it on, it's going to reactivate this dye that we've already put down and it's going to cause it to streak. So by spraying it, you're not getting any of that wiping motion. We should avoid any streaks that way, and it's going to give a good coat to apply the stain over in a little bit. Okay, there we go. I don't have to go real heavy on this. I'll let this dry for a few minutes, maybe add one more light coat, then we'll come back and add the stain. Now that the shellac's cured, I'm going through with a steel wool pad and I'm just kind of hitting any dust nibs that I can see on here. I'm not terribly concerned about them if they are on there, but I want to get the big ones off. I don't want big chunks in the final finish. So just brushing those off. And now we can go ahead and apply our aging stain, which is going to be a gel stain. This one's the Old Masters Dark Walnut. I want something that's pretty dark, something that's gonna kind of mimic that dirt and grime that a piece of furniture would pick up after a couple of decades of use. So this is the one we're gonna use, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna apply it, and I'm gonna apply it and concentrate really on areas that would probably pick up a patina, so something like the corners or where joinery might open up over age. I'll apply a little extra there. And with an open grain wood like this white oak, it will get down into those grain pores and fill those in. And it's gonna look really nice. I'm gonna use just a wide chip brush Now the thing here is you don't really have to be super consistent with it. We want it to kind of pool in certain areas, and we're gonna end up wiping most of this off anyways. So, and as long as your shellac coat is plenty thick, you're not gonna get down to the wood, so it's not gonna change the overall tone of everything. We should just be highlighting stuff here. So you do, as you're applying that shellac, you wanna make sure you get a good barrier so this doesn't pick up a ton of color. Now I'm just gonna do the front side. I'm gonna do the show faces on this case because I don't think there's any sense in going through and applying this stain to the surfaces that aren't seen, like the inside of the cabinet or the back side of the door. You know, you'll see those when you open them up, but not as the piece is just sitting in the, you know, in your house. So I'm not gonna worry about those, which makes this process pretty quick and painless. And you can see the effect on this stuff is pretty subtle, but it really changes the look of it. Gives it that nice kind of rustic age that a piece of furniture would pick up. You know, as I go through antique stores looking for tools, I'm often looking at furniture, and this is the type of grime and color that you see in old mission style furniture. So it's a really, really nice detail on here. All right. Now, because that gel stain is sitting on top of a layer of shellac, it is going to take extra long to cure. So I'm going to let this sit for at least 24 hours. More than likely, I'll let it sit for a couple of days to make sure that that gel stain really sets up. Then I'll come back and top coat this with a couple of coats of spray lacquer. That's going to lock it in and provide excellent protection to the piece of furniture. So using a multi-step finish process like this is a great way to add a nice, loved look to a piece of Craftsman or Mission style furniture.